Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Whether you have come back tonight or you are discovering this quiet place for the first time, this is a calm corner where you can slow down, learn something gentle, and let the day slowly fall away. Tonight, we are going to look at a tree. Not a rare tree. Not a tree hidden deep in some distant rainforest. Just a tree, standing quietly in the ground. It might be an oak beside a path. It might be a maple near a backyard fence. It might be a pine, a beech, a willow, or an old apple tree leaning gently toward the light. From far away, it may seem simple. A trunk, some branches, a crown of leaves, a patch of shade beneath it. But the closer you look, the less simple it becomes. A tree is not only one living thing. It is also a place where many other living things gather, feed, hide, grow, rest, hunt, and return. Its bark can hold tiny forests of moss. Its leaves can feed insects smaller than a grain of rice. Its flowers can call in bees, flies, moths, beetles, and birds. Its roots can trade with fungi in the soil. Its fallen leaves can become food for worms, bacteria, and springtails, which are tiny jumping animals that live in damp soil and leaf litter. Even its shade can change the temperature of the ground below it. A tree is still, but it is not empty. It is quiet, but it is not inactive. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe. And if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. The quiet continues here, just as it is. A single mature tree can become something like an apartment building, a restaurant, a nursery, a water pump, a weather shelter, and a recycling centre all at once. In Britain, native oak trees are linked with more than 2,000 species of plants, animals, fungi, and other forms of life. Some live on the bark. Some chew the leaves. Some feed on the acorns. Some nest in the branches. Some enter the dead wood after a limb breaks. Some live in the soil shaped by the tree's fallen leaves. That does not mean every oak holds every species at the same time. But it does show how much life can be tied to one kind of tree. An oak is not just an oak. It is a meeting place. And even trees that support fewer species still shape the world around them in many quiet ways. A tree catches sunlight with its leaves and turns that light into sugar through photosynthesis. That word simply means using light to build food. The leaves take in carbon dioxide from the air. The roots bring up water from the soil. Inside the leaf, the tree uses sunlight to join these simple materials into sugars that feed its living cells. But the story does not stop inside the tree. Some of that energy moves outward. A caterpillar may eat the edge of a leaf. A bird may eat the caterpillar. A hawk may watch the bird from a higher branch. A squirrel may carry away a seed. A fungus may wait years for a fallen limb to soften. The tree gathers sunlight, and then, slowly, that sunlight becomes part of a much larger living web. Even the surface of the trunk is more complex than it first appears. Bark is not smooth armor. It has ridges, flakes, cracks, dry places, damp places, shaded pockets, and small hollows. To a beetle, the side of a tree may feel like a cliff. To a spider, it may be a hunting ground. To a lichen, it may be a place to hold on for decades. To a bird, it may be the wall around a hidden nest. From a human distance, the tree may look calm and whole, but up close, every part of it is being touched by life. Above the ground, leaves filter light and soften rain. Below the ground, roots spread through soil, meeting fungi, bacteria, minerals, and water. Around the tree, the air can be cooler. The soil can be moister. The shade can decide which small plants survive beneath it. A tree is not separate from its surroundings. It is always changing them. And once you begin to notice this, even an ordinary tree beside a road begins to feel different. The trunk is no longer just wood. The leaves are no longer just green. The roots are no longer just hidden supports. The whole tree becomes a quiet world, rising from the soil, filled with small lives moving through its surfaces, its shadows, and its unseen spaces. And the first doorway into that world is the bark. The first doorway into the tree's hidden world is the bark. From a distance, bark may look like a single rough surface wrapped around the trunk. Up close, it becomes uneven ground. There are raised plates, narrow cracks, loose flakes, shaded grooves, and tiny pockets where rainwater can linger after a storm. To the tree, bark is protection. It helps guard the living tissues beneath it from drying air, insects, disease, fire, frost, and damage from animals. The outside layer is mostly made of dead cells, packed together like a shield. Beneath that outer shield are living layers, including the phloem, which helps carry sugars made in the leaves down through the tree. The tree is quietly moving food under its surface, while the outside bark faces the weather. This outer covering changes greatly from one species to another. A young beech tree often has smooth grey bark, almost like stone that has been polished by rain. An old oak can have deep, rugged furrows that look like small canyons running up the trunk. Shagbark hickory has long strips of bark that peel away from the trunk in loose curls. Ponderosa pine can develop thick orange-brown plates that smell faintly like vanilla or warm resin when the sun heats them. Giant sequoias growing in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California can have bark more than 2 feet thick. That thickness helps protect them from many low forest fires. Each bark pattern creates a different kind of surface. Smooth bark sheds water quickly. Deep bark can hold dampness for longer. Loose bark can form tiny sheltered rooms. A crack only a few millimeters wide may be too small for a bird to notice, while a beetle or a spider can use it as a safe passage. After rain, water does not dry evenly across the trunk. A ridge facing the afternoon sun may dry quickly. A groove turned away from the light may stay cool and moist. On many trees in the northern hemisphere, the north side of the trunk often receives less direct sunlight. That shaded side may keep more moisture, which can make it a better place for mosses or certain lichens. The south side may become warmer and drier, especially during summer afternoons. So even on one trunk, there can be several tiny climates only inches apart. For a small organism, those inches matter. A mite moving across the bark may pass from a dry ridge into a damp hollow. A springtail which is a tiny soil and leaf litter animal that can jump with a forked body part under its abdomen, may find shelter beneath a curled flake. A spider may stretch a small web between two raised plates where flying insects pass close to the tree. Ants may follow the same rough pathways day after day, using scent trails that human eyes cannot see. The bark becomes a cliff face, rising from the ground into the branches. Its ridges act like ledges. Its broken plates act like overhangs. Its cracks lead inward like narrow caves. Wind carries dust, pollen, spores, and bits of dead leaf into those spaces. Over time, these small pieces collect in protected spots. A thin layer of trapped material can hold moisture long enough for microscopic life to begin using it. The trunk, seen closely, carries traces of weather and time. A scar may show where a branch broke years ago. A darker streak may show where water often runs after rain. A pale patch may mark the slow growth of lichen. A small round hole may be the entrance left by an insect boring through weakened wood. Every mark has some connection to the tree's life, or to the lives that have touched it. Bark also changes as the tree grows. The living trunk expands from within, and the outer bark must split, stretch, crack, or peel to make room. This is one reason older trees often have rougher surfaces than young trees. Their bark has had more years to break into patterns. Those patterns become useful to other life. A tree that has stood through 50 winters may hold far more shelter in its bark than a thin young sapling only a few seasons old. At human height, this world is easy to pass without noticing. A hand may feel roughness and move on. But to the tiny lives that measure the tree in body lengths, the bark is wide, shaded, uneven, and full of protected places. Before anything runs across it, before wings flicker through the branches, before a bird lands above, the surface is already prepared. Still life is already holding to the trunk, growing slowly across the bark in green, grey, silver, and pale gold. Still, life is already holding to the trunk. Across the bark, small patches of green, grey, silver, yellow, and pale blue may spread so slowly that they seem almost painted there. These patches are often lichens and mosses. They can make an old trunk look softened by time, as if the tree has gathered a second skin from the air around it. A lichen is a partnership. One part is a fungus. The other part is a tiny photosynthetic organism, usually an alga or a cyanobacterium. Photosynthetic means it can use light to make food, much like a leaf does. Cyanobacteria are very small living cells that can capture sunlight and, in some cases, help bring nitrogen into a form other organisms can use. The fungus gives the lichen its shape. It holds water, grips the surface, and protects the smaller partner inside. The algae or cyanobacteria make sugars from light. Together, they can live on bark, stone, fence posts, roof shingles, and even bare cliffs where many plants would struggle. On a tree, lichens do not usually take food from the tree itself. They mostly use the bark as a place to rest in the light. A pale patch on a maple trunk, or an orange crust on an old apple branch, may be living from sunlight, rain, and tiny minerals carried by dust. Some lichens grow as thin crusts pressed flat against the bark. Others form leafy flakes with curled edges. A few grow in tiny branching shapes, like miniature shrubs only a few centimeters tall. Their pace is slow. Many lichens grow only a few millimeters each year. A round lichen patch on an old branch may record decades of quiet growth, spreading outward season by season through rain, frost, heat, and dry wind. Mosses bring a softer texture to the bark. They are small plants, yet their bodies are built very differently from trees. A tree has roots, wood, leaves, and tubes that move water upward through the trunk. Mosses use tiny anchoring threads, called rhizoids, to cling to bark, soil, or stone. They absorb water across much of their surface. After rain, a dry moss cushion can swell and brighten within minutes. The curled leaves open. The color deepens. The patch that looked dull and brittle can become soft and green again. This is why mosses often appear in damp places on the trunk. A shaded groove may hold moisture longer than a sunlit ridge. The lower side of a leaning branch may stay cooler than the exposed top. Near the base of a tree, where splash from rain reaches the bark and leaf litter keeps the ground damp, moss can form a small green collar around the trunk. In older forests, moss may also grow on fallen logs, exposed roots, and stones beneath the canopy. The tree's surface begins to gather material. Wind brings dust. Rain carries fine particles down the bark. Pollen settles into cracks during spring. Spores, which are tiny reproductive cells from fungi, mosses, and ferns, land in sheltered places. Loose bark catches fragments of dead leaf. A shallow groove can become a thin pocket of moisture and grit. Over time, these little collections make the bark more useful to other forms of life. A moss cushion can hold water like a small sponge. A lichen patch can create texture where tiny animals can grip. A damp hollow near a patch of moss may stay cool during the hottest part of the day. The surface of the tree becomes layered. The bark gives shape. The lichen adds a slow crust of living color. The moss adds softness and moisture. Dust and spores settle into the spaces between them. A human hand might pass over the trunk and feel only roughness. At a smaller scale, the surface has valleys, mats, shelves, shaded wells, and pale islands of growth. Nothing here needs to hurry. Lichens may wait through drought. Mosses may dry out and return with rain. Their lives follow the slow rhythm of wet mornings, bright afternoons, cold nights, and passing seasons. The tree holds them without sound. Its surface has become alive in a quiet way. And once this still green skin is in place, the first small movements across it begin to stand out. A leg appears from under a bark flake. A dark shape crosses a patch of moss. A tiny body follows the groove of the trunk, moving through the landscape that the bark and its slow growth have prepared. A tiny body follows the groove of the trunk, moving through the landscape that the bark and its slow growth have prepared. It may be an ant, feeling its way with bent antennae. It may be a beetle pressing close to the surface. It may be a mite so small that it would look like a moving speck of dust. The tree, which seems still from a few steps away, now has traffic. Ants often use trunks as vertical roads. They climb from the soil to the branches, following scent trails made from chemicals called pheromones. A pheromone is a signal one animal leaves for another animal of the same kind. To human eyes, the trail is invisible. To an ant, it can be as clear as a path worn into the ground. Some ants climb toward aphids, tiny sap-feeding insects that gather on tender stems and leaves. Aphids use thin mouthparts to tap into plant fluids. As they feed, they release a sweet liquid called honeydew. Certain ants collect this honeydew and may guard aphids from predators in return. On one branch, there may be a quiet exchange taking place between the tree, the aphids, and the ants moving carefully around them. Beetles use trees in many different ways. Some adult beetles walk over bark looking for fungi, pollen, sap, or smaller prey. Others spend part of their lives hidden beneath the surface. Bark beetles, for example, tunnel under bark and lay eggs in narrow galleries. A gallery is a passage carved through the inner bark. When the larvae hatch, they chew their own smaller tunnels as they feed. On a weakened or dying tree, these tunnels can form delicate branching patterns under the bark, almost like writing pressed into the wood. Longhorn beetle larvae can live inside dead or stressed wood for months or even years, slowly chewing through fibers with strong jaws. From outside, a trunk may show only a small round exit hole. Inside, a whole hidden childhood may have passed in darkness. Caterpillars usually draw attention higher up, where leaves are soft and full of energy. A caterpillar is the young stage of a moth or butterfly. Its main work is eating and growing. Some chew wide scallops from leaf edges. Others scrape the surface in pale, winding trails. Leaf miners live between the upper and lower layers of a leaf, leaving narrow paths that look like tiny rivers on green paper. Every bite traces sunlight through the food web. The tree uses light to build sugar in the leaf. The caterpillar takes some of that stored energy into its own body. A bird may later search the branch and find the caterpillar tucked along a vein. The leaf becomes a feeding place for one animal and a hunting place for another. Wasps also move through this small world. Many people think first of stinging wasps, yet a great number are tiny and harmless to humans. Some parasitic wasps lay their eggs inside caterpillars, aphids, or beetle larvae. Their young develop using that host as food. This sounds harsh, yet it helps keep insect populations from overwhelming the leaves. A single tree may hold many quiet balances like this, with feeders, hunters, and hidden eggs sharing the same surface. Flies visit tree wounds where sap leaks out. Small gnats gather in damp bark pockets. Mites graze on fungi, algae, or decaying matter caught in cracks. Spiders, which are arachnids rather than insects, follow the insect traffic because the tree gives them places to hunt. One spider may wait under loose bark. Another may stretch silk between two twigs. A third may walk slowly across moss, feeling vibrations through its legs. The trunk and branches become roads for ants, tunnels for beetle larvae, nurseries for eggs, feeding stations for sap drinkers, and hunting ground for predators. Movement is scattered across different scales. Some creatures cross a branch in seconds. Others remain hidden for a season. A larva may feed inside wood while rain, frost, spring growth, and summer heat pass outside the bark. The tree holds these lives at different speeds. Its surface carries quick footsteps and slow transformations at the same time. Above all this movement, the leaves spread into the light. They are the soft green factories that make much of this traffic possible. The insects climbing the trunk, chewing the edges, sipping the sap, hiding from birds, or waiting in silk are all connected in some way to the energy gathered above. The next layer of the tree's world begins there, where sunlight enters the leaves and becomes food. Where sunlight enters the leaves, the tree's hidden traffic begins to make sense. Each leaf is a small living surface built to catch light. A broad oak leaf spreads flat in the air. A maple leaf opens like a green hand. A pine needle is narrow and tough, shaped to hold water through cold winters and dry winds. Their shapes differ, but the work is closely related. Leaves gather sunlight and use it to build sugar. This process is called photosynthesis. Inside the leaf are tiny green structures called chloroplasts. They contain chlorophyll, the pigment that gives many leaves their green color. Chlorophyll absorbs light, especially red and blue light, and helps power the chemical work inside the leaf. The leaf takes in carbon dioxide from the air. Water rises from the roots through the trunk and branches. Using energy from sunlight, the leaf joins these materials into sugar. The tree can use that sugar to grow new cells, repair wounds, build wood, make flowers, form seeds, and store energy for later. A leaf looks light and delicate, yet it is doing work that supports the whole tree. On a warm day, thousands of leaves may be working at once. A mature tree can hold tens of thousands of leaves, depending on its species, age, and growing conditions. A large oak may carry a wide crown of leaves spread across many branches. A birch may shimmer with smaller leaves that tremble easily in the wind. A willow may hold long, narrow leaves that hang over water. Each leaf is positioned in relation to light, shade, wind, and the leaves around it. The tree is always balancing surface area with risk. More leaf surface can catch more sunlight. More surface also means more water can be lost into the air. Leaves manage this through tiny openings called stomata. A stoma is a small pore, usually found on the underside of a leaf. Through these pores, carbon dioxide enters, and water vapor can leave. On hot or dry days, the tree may close many stomata to slow water loss. During good growing conditions, the pores can open and allow the leaf to keep building sugar. That quiet exchange connects the air around the tree to the water moving inside it. A leaf also feeds more lives than the tree alone. Caterpillars chew along the edges, leaving scalloped bites that show where their jaws have passed. Some beetles nibble small holes through the soft tissue. Aphids press thin mouthparts into tender stems and leaf veins to drink sugary fluid. Mites may scrape at the surface or feed on tiny particles caught there. Leaf miners live between the upper and lower layers of the leaf, drawing pale winding paths as they eat from the inside. To the tree, a leaf is part of its food-making system. To a caterpillar, it is breakfast, shelter, and a place to grow. Many trees produce chemical defenses in their leaves. Oak leaves contain tannins, bitter compounds that can make them harder for some insects to digest. Willows and poplars contain salicylates, chemicals related to the compound used to make aspirin. Conifers, such as pines and spruces, often use sticky resins that can trap or repel small attackers. These defenses do not stop all feeding. They shape which insects can use the leaves and how much damage the tree can tolerate. Some caterpillars are specially adapted to certain tree species. The monarch caterpillar is famous for feeding on milkweed, though that is not a tree. In forests, many moth and butterfly caterpillars also have close ties to particular trees. Tent caterpillars may gather on cherry, apple, or hawthorn branches. Gypsy moth caterpillars, now often called spongy moth caterpillars, can feed on many hardwood trees, including oaks and aspens. A leaf can become part of a long chain of energy. Sunlight becomes sugar. Sugar becomes leaf tissue. Leaf tissue becomes insect body. A chickadee searching the branch may pick the insect from the underside of the leaf and carry it to a nest. During breeding season, many songbirds feed their young large numbers of caterpillars because soft insect bodies are rich in protein and fat. The energy that began as light has moved into a growing bird. This is why leaves matter far beyond the tree's own body. They feed the trunk, the roots, the flowers, and the seeds. They also feed the small animals that feed larger animals. They create shade below them, moisture around them, and shelter among them. Together, the leaves form a raised green roof over the ground. Under that roof, air cools slightly. Rain breaks into smaller drops, and branches become hidden paths for life moving above the forest floor. Under that raised green roof, the tree begins to change the space around it. The canopy is the upper layer of branches and leaves that spreads above the trunk. In a forest, many canopies overlap, forming a broken ceiling of green. In a single backyard tree, the canopy may be one rounded crown, wide enough to cast shade over grass, soil, flowers, and resting animals below. This leafy roof catches the world before it reaches the ground. Sunlight touches the upper leaves first. Rain strikes the outer crown before it drips through. Wind slows as it passes through branches. Heat gathers differently under the leaves than it does in open air. A person standing beneath a tree on a summer day can feel this change immediately. The light becomes softer. The air may feel cooler. The ground may be less dry. The difference comes from several simple physical processes working together. Leaves block part of the direct sunlight. That means less solar energy reaches the soil below. Soil in full sun can heat quickly, especially if it is bare or dry. Soil under a canopy warms more slowly because the leaves absorb and scatter some of that light. The canopy also releases water vapor into the air through transpiration. Transpiration is the movement of water from roots through the tree and out through tiny pores in the leaves. As water changes into vapor, it carries heat away from the leaf surface. This helps cool the leaf, and it can also make the air around the canopy slightly more humid. Humid air contains more water vapor. That moisture can matter to small creatures living among the branches. A tiny insect on the underside of a leaf faces a different world than one crawling across a hot stone path. The leaf offers shade, a smoother temperature, and a nearby source of moisture. Rain also changes when it meets the canopy. A sudden storm may drop hard beads of water from the sky, but the leaves break that fall into slower drips. Some rain runs down twigs and branches toward the trunk. This movement is called stem flow. Some water stays on leaves for a while, then evaporates back into the air. Some falls later from leaf tips in larger drops. Because of this, the ground under a tree receives rain in a different pattern than open ground. Near the trunk, water may collect where it runs down the bark. Farther out, the drip line marks the rough circle where water falls from the edge of the canopy. After a storm, that circle can be visible as darker soil, flattened grass, or wet leaf litter. The canopy acts like a filter for wind as well. Air moving through open ground may pass quickly and evenly. Air moving through leaves and branches gets broken into smaller currents. A strong gust becomes a softer motion inside the crown. Leaves flutter, twigs bend, and thin branches absorb some of the force. For animals, this matters. A resting bird can tuck close to a branch where the air is calmer. A squirrel can move along a limb with leaves hiding part of its body from above. A moth can rest on bark or leaf underside where sun and wind are both reduced. The canopy is also a raised neighborhood. Life does not only move up and down the trunk, it moves sideways through branches. A squirrel can cross from one tree to another without touching the ground if the crowns meet. Ants can climb into leaves and tend aphids. Spiders can attach silk between twigs. Caterpillars can feed, hide, and later hang from a branch while changing into moths or butterflies. In tropical rainforests, the canopy can be so rich that some animals spend nearly their whole lives above the ground. Sloths, tree frogs, orchids, ants, beetles, and many birds use that upper world in different ways. Even in cooler forests, the canopy is full of paths and resting places. A chickadee may search leaf clusters for caterpillars. A woodpecker may land on a dead branch rising from the crown. A bat may roost under loose bark or inside a cavity, waiting for evening. From below, the canopy appears calm. From within, it holds shade, food, cover, moisture, and movement. The tree has lifted part of the ecosystem into the air. Its branches divide the open space into perches, tunnels, leaf rooms, and hidden edges. Once the canopy becomes this sheltered upper world, the larger lives within it feel almost expected. A branch can hold more than leaves. It can hold a nest, a resting body, a watchful eye, and the beginning of a new generation. A branch can hold more than leaves. It can hold a small body resting in shade, a song carried into morning air, or a nest tucked into a fork where two limbs divide. Birds are among the easiest tree residents to notice because they bring sound and movement into the canopy. A robin may pause on an open branch and tilt its head toward the ground, listening for worms moving in damp soil. A chickadee may search along twigs and leaf clusters, picking tiny caterpillars from places a larger animal would never reach. A crow may choose a high perch with a wide view, watching roads, fields, rooftops, and other birds below. Each bird reads the tree in its own way. A dense evergreen offers cover through winter when broadleaf trees have dropped their leaves. A tall dead branch gives a hawk or owl a clear lookout. A hollow trunk can shelter a nesting pair. A thin outer twig may hold a small bird, safely beyond the reach of heavier animals. The tree becomes useful because it has so many shapes. Some birds prefer open branches where they can sing. In spring, male songbirds often sing from visible perches to defend territory and attract mates. A red-winged blackbird may sing from a cattail or shrub near water, while a cardinal may use the edge of a tree crown. The song carries farther when the bird is raised above the ground. Branches lift the voice into clearer air. They also give the bird a place to watch for danger. A sudden shadow, a moving cat, or the shape of a hawk can send small birds deeper into cover within a moment. Nesting turns the tree into something even more intimate. A nest is a built space, shaped by beak, foot, body weight, and repeated trips through the surrounding landscape. Many cup nests begin with twigs, dry grass, bark strips, and plant stems. Softer materials may be added inside, such as moss, feathers, fine roots, animal hair, or bits of down. American robins often use mud as part of the nest wall, pressing it into shape with their bodies before lining the inside with grass. Hummingbirds may bind tiny nests with spider silk, which lets the nest stretch slightly as the young birds grow. Baltimore orioles weave hanging pouch-like nests from plant fibers, often high in outer branches. The branch gives support, but the bird supplies design. Tree cavities create another kind of nursery. A cavity is a hollow space inside wood. Some form when branches break and fungi slowly soften the exposed center. Others are made by woodpeckers. A woodpecker uses its strong bill to carve into dead or weakened wood, creating a chamber where eggs can be laid. After the woodpecker leaves, the same cavity may later be used by chickadees, bluebirds, tree swallows, owls, squirrels, or bats. A single hole in an old trunk can serve many lives across many seasons. Dead branches matter here. They may look bare, yet they are often softer and easier to excavate than living wood. For cavity nesting birds, a dead limb can be more valuable than a smooth, healthy branch. This is one reason older trees often hold more nesting options than young trees. Time adds scars, hollows, broken places, and softened wood. Those features create shelter. The tree also helps protect eggs and chicks from weather. Leaves break the force of rain. Branches reduce wind around the nest. Shade can keep a nest from overheating during direct sun. In colder weather, evergreen branches may block snow and hide roosting birds from predators. The nest still faces risk. A raccoon may climb. A snake may find eggs. A storm may shake the branch. Even so, the raised position gives many birds a better chance than open ground. Inside the nest, the tree's ecosystem becomes personal. Eggs warm beneath a parent's body. Chicks hatch with closed eyes and open mouths. Adult birds return again and again with caterpillars, beetles, flies, seeds, or fruit, depending on the species. The leaves that fed insects now help feed young birds. The bark that held spiders and beetles becomes part of the search area for parents. The canopy that softened wind becomes a nursery roof. A tree may hold several bird lives at once. One species may nest in a fork. Another may use a cavity. A third may rest briefly on a dead branch before moving on. The tree is now carrying generations, not only visitors. As birds move through the branches, the canopy begins to feel like a shared structure, large enough for other warm bodies to follow its paths, sleep in its hollows, and use its limbs as bridges above the ground. As birds move through the branches, other warm bodies follow the same raised paths. A grey squirrel can cross a whole tree crown without touching the ground. Its claws grip bark like tiny hooks. Its long tail helps with balance as it jumps from one branch to another. In eastern North America, grey squirrels often build leafy nests called drays. A dray is usually made from twigs, dry leaves, moss, bark strips, and softer lining inside. From below, it may look like a loose ball of leaves caught high in a fork. Inside, it can be a warm sleeping place during cold weather, or a safe nursery for young squirrels. Some squirrels also use tree cavities. A cavity is a hollow space inside the trunk or a large branch. These openings can form in several ways. A branch may break during wind or heavy snow, leaving exposed wood behind. Rainwater can enter the wound. Fungi may begin softening the inner wood over many seasons. Woodpeckers can carve holes into dead or weakened wood, and once they leave, other animals may move in. An old scar on the trunk can slowly widen into a hidden room. For a small mammal, that room can mean warmth, darkness, and protection. Bats use trees in quieter ways. Many bats rest during the day in tree cavities, under loose bark, or inside narrow cracks. A little brown bat weighs less than a small stack of coins, yet it can eat hundreds of insects in a night. Some forest bats choose roosts that stay warm enough for resting, while still offering cover from owls, snakes, raccoons, and harsh weather. Loose bark on a dead tree can become a narrow shelter, just wide enough for a bat to press its body inside. At dusk, the bat leaves the tree and enters the air, hunting by echolocation. Echolocation means it sends out high sounds and listens for the echoes that bounce back from insects, branches, and open spaces. The tree becomes its daytime shelter, and the surrounding air becomes its night hunting ground. Raccoons use trees with strong, careful bodies. Their paws are sensitive, almost hand-like, and they can climb bark, branches, and hollow trunks. A large tree cavity may become a den, especially for a mother raising young. Raccoons may also search branches for bird eggs, fruit, nuts, insects, or resting places. Opossums climb more slowly, using grasping feet and a tail that can help steady them. In North America, the Virginia opossum may sleep in tree hollows, old nests, or sheltered spaces near trunks and roots. It does not usually build a fancy nest of its own, so a tree with existing cover can become especially useful. In warmer forests, the mammal life in trees grows even richer. Monkeys travel through tropical canopies using branches as bridges. A howler monkey in Central or South America may feed on leaves, fruit, and flowers high above the ground. A spider monkey uses long limbs and a gripping tail to move through trees with flowing, careful motion. In rainforests, some mammals may spend much of their lives in the canopy, where food, shelter, and escape routes are woven together in branches. Even in temperate forests, the idea is similar on a smaller scale. Branches become roads above danger. A limb reaching toward another tree can work like a bridge. A hollow trunk can feel like a room. A fork in the crown can become a bed, a lookout, or a place to pause with food held between small paws. The tree's shape creates choices. A rough trunk gives climbing grip. A broad branch gives a resting platform. A hollow gives cover. A high perch gives safety from many ground predators. A connected canopy gives a route from one feeding place to another. The architecture grows slowly through the tree's own life. Every year, new wood is added beneath the bark. Branches lengthen, old limbs weaken, storms break some parts and open others. Fungi soften hidden chambers. The tree gathers useful spaces as it ages. A young sapling may offer leaves and a thin stem. An older tree may offer rooms, ledges, bridges, tunnels, and sheltered sleeping places. The animals using those spaces are not only passing through. They are drawn by what the tree gives. A squirrel follows the promise of acorns, walnuts, or seeds. A raccoon climbs toward fruit or eggs. A bat rests by day and hunts insects nearby at night. A monkey reaches for flowers or ripe fruit in the canopy. The tree has become architecture, and that architecture is filled with rewards. Higher in the branches, the next part of the exchange begins to appear in blossoms, pollen, fruit, nuts, and seeds, where the tree starts inviting animals closer for reasons of its own. Higher in the branches, the tree begins offering signals. Some are bright enough for human eyes to notice from across a yard. A crab apple tree in spring can cover itself in pink or white blossoms. A cherry tree may bloom before its leaves fully open, filling bare branches with pale flowers. A tulip tree, native to eastern North America, grows greenish yellow flowers high in the canopy, where they can be easy to miss from the ground. Each flower is part of the tree's reproductive system. Inside many flowers are male parts that produce pollen, and female parts that can develop into seeds after fertilization. Fertilization means that a male cell from pollen joins with an egg cell inside the flower. After that, a seed can begin forming. A flower may use color, scent, shape, nectar, or pollen to bring animals close. Nectar is a sugary liquid made by the plant. It gives energy to insects, birds, bats, and other visitors. Pollen can also be food, especially for bees, because it contains protein and fats needed to raise young. The tree gives a reward, and the visitor may carry pollen away on its body. This exchange can be delicate. A bee landing on an apple blossom brushes against the flower's pollen-bearing parts. Fine yellow grains stick to hairs on the bee's legs and body. When the bee enters another flower, some of those grains may touch the sticky surface that receives pollen. The flower has drawn the bee in with food, and the bee has helped move life from one blossom to another. Some trees rely heavily on animal visitors. Apples, cherries, plums, and many tropical trees need insects or other animals to move pollen well. Magnolias, which belong to an ancient flowering plant lineage, are often visited by beetles. Their flowers can be thick and sturdy, suited to insects that crawl and chew more than they gently sip. In warm regions, some trees open flowers at night and produce strong scents that guide bats or moths through darkness. Other trees use wind. Oaks, birches, and many pines release clouds of pollen that move through the air without needing a visible flower like an apple blossom. A pine tree produces pollen from male cones, and in spring, the yellow dust can coat cars, windowsills, ponds, and sidewalks. This wind-carried method uses quantity. Much of the pollen never reaches the right place, so the tree releases enormous amounts. Animal-pollinated flowers can work more like careful messages, Wind-pollinated trees release their signal into the wider air. After pollination, the tree's invitations change form. Flowers fade. Petals fall. Seeds begin to develop. Around some seeds, the tree grows fruit. An apple is swollen tissue around seeds. A cherry is a fleshy fruit around a hard pit. A fig holds many tiny flowers and seeds inside a soft structure that ripens into food for birds, bats, monkeys, and people. Fruit attracts animals by offering sugar, color, scent, and moisture. As it ripens, green skin may turn red, purple, orange, or black. Those colors can stand out against leaves. The fruit becomes easier to smell. Its flesh softens. For many animals, these changes mean the seed inside is ready to travel. A bird may swallow a berry whole and later drop the seed somewhere else. A fox may eat fallen fruit and carry seeds beyond the shade of the parent tree. A bat may fly with fruit pulp in its mouth, dropping seeds far from the original branch. The tree stays rooted, while its seeds move through the bodies and habits of animals. Nuts work differently, but they also invite movement. An oak grows acorns. A walnut tree grows hard-shelled nuts. A beech produces small triangular beech nuts inside prickly husks. Squirrels, jays, mice, chipmunks, and other animals gather these foods because they are rich in stored energy. Some are eaten right away. Others are buried. When a buried acorn is forgotten, it may rest through winter in the soil. In spring, if moisture and temperature are right, a root may push downward and a shoot may rise. The animal was feeding itself and the tree gained distance. The branch has now become more than shelter. It offers food, scent, color, and stored energy. It gives animals reasons to arrive, pause, feed, carry, and leave. Inside the calm shape of the tree, these exchanges guide pollen between flowers and seeds away from shade. The most delicate part begins at the flower, where a visitor's small movement can decide whether a new seed ever forms. The most delicate part begins at the flower, where a visitor's small movement can decide whether a new seed ever forms. Pollination is the movement of pollen from the male part of a flower to the female part. Pollen looks like dust to the eye, yet each grain carries cells that can help begin a seed. On many flowering trees, pollen is made on small structures called anthers. The receiving surface is called a stigma, and it is often slightly sticky. When pollen reaches the right stigma, a tiny tube can grow down into the flower. That tube carries the male cell toward the egg cell. After fertilization, the flower can begin turning its energy towards seed formation. This quiet process may begin with the weight of a bee landing on a petal. A honeybee may visit hundreds of blossoms in a single foraging trip. Its body is covered in fine hairs, so pollen clings easily as it moves through the flower. Bumblebees are heavier and fuzzier, able to work in cooler weather than many smaller bees. In early spring, when apple, cherry, and plum trees bloom, a few warm hours can bring bees moving from flower to flower across the whole crown. A mason bee may visit fruit tree blossoms with quick, direct movements. A single visit can leave enough pollen behind for a flower to begin its change into fruit. Flies also pollinate trees, especially in cool or damp places where bees may be less active. Some hoverflies look like small bees or wasps. with yellow and black markings, though they have only one pair of wings. They feed on nectar and pollen, and as they move, pollen can dust their bodies. Beetles pollinate some older groups of flowering plants. Magnolia flowers are often thick and sturdy because beetles may crawl over them, chew parts of them, and push between their central structures. This kind of pollination reaches far back in plant history. Magnolias appeared long before many modern bee-pollinated flowers became common. Moths and butterflies bring another kind of movement. Butterflies often visit bright flowers during the day, using a long drinking tube called a proboscis to sip nectar. Moths may work at dusk or through the night. Some night-blooming trees and shrubs produce pale flowers and strong scents that travel well in darkness. A hawk moth hovering at a flower can carry pollen on its face or body as it feeds. In tropical forests, birds can pollinate trees with red or orange flowers rich in nectar. Hummingbirds in the Americas visit blossoms while hovering, their wings beating so quickly they blur. Their long bills and tongues reach into tube-shaped flowers, and pollen can brush onto their heads. Bats pollinate certain trees in warm regions, especially where flowers open at night. Many bat-pollinated flowers are large, pale, and strongly scented. The baobab tree, famous in parts of Africa and Madagascar, opens big night flowers that can attract bats searching for nectar. As the bat feeds, its fur can pick up pollen and carry it to another flower before dawn. Animal pollination is careful compared with wind, because the visitor can move pollen directly between flowers. Wind pollination follows a broader path. Oaks, birches, alders, pines, spruces, and many grasses release large amounts of pollen into open air. Their flowers may be small, plain, and easy to overlook. They often bloom before leaves fully expand, so pollen can travel with fewer barriers. A pine tree releases pollen from male cones, and the grains may drift as yellow powder over ponds, sidewalks, and windows. Much of that pollen never reaches a female cone or flower. The tree answers this loss with abundance. Animal-pollinated trees often invest in nectar, scent, color, and flower shape. Wind-pollinated trees often invest in countless pollen grains light enough to float. Both methods carry the same goal forward. Pollen must reach the place where seed-making can begin. After that, the flower changes. Petals may loosen and fall. The base of the flower may swell. A tiny green fruit may appear where a blossom once opened. Inside, seeds begin forming with stored food, and a young plant tucked within them. The tree has used air, insects, birds, or bats to cross the space between flowers. Its future now rests inside seeds that need room, light, soil, and distance. A seed growing directly beneath its parent may face deep shade and crowded roots. The story begins moving outward, away from the branch, toward wind, water, animals, and the ground beyond the tree's shadow. A seed growing directly beneath its parent will likely be facing a lot of shade and crowded roots. So the tree sends its future outward. It cannot walk away from the place where it sprouted. Its trunk remains fixed in the soil. Yet its seeds can travel by air, water, gravity, birds, mammals, ants, and the passing brush of fur or feathers. Each seed carries a small beginning. Inside the seed coat is a young plant, along with stored food to help it start growing. The seed coat is the protective outer layer. It can be thin and papery, hard like a shell, or tough enough to survive months of cold, dryness, or travel through an animal's digestive system. Different trees solve the problem of distance in different ways. Maples grow wing seeds called samaras. Each samara has a flattened wing that catches the air as it falls. When it drops from the branch, it spins like a small wooden helicopter. That spinning slows the fall and lets the wind carry it away from the trunk. Ash trees and elms also make wing seeds, though their shapes differ. A breeze that would barely move an acorn can lift a light samara across a yard, a field edge, or a forest gap. Cottonwood and willow seeds use a softer method. They are tiny and light, wrapped in fine cottony fibers. In late spring or early summer, cottonwood fluff can drift through streets and riverbanks like warm snow. These trees often grow near water, where exposed wet soil gives young seedlings a short chance to root. The seed itself may remain able to sprout for only a brief time, so timing matters. A seed landing on dry pavement is lost. A seed landing on damp open mud may begin life within days. Gravity also plays its quiet part. Heavy fruits, nuts, and seeds fall near the parent tree first. A ripe apple drops into grass. A chestnut falls from a spiny husk. An acorn taps against leaves beneath an oak. Gravity begins the journey, then animals often carry it farther. A bird may eat a cherry, serviceberry, or dogwood fruit, and later leave the seed in a new place. The fleshy fruit is the payment. The seed is the hidden passenger. Many fruit seeds have coatings that help them survive the trip through the gut. When they are dropped with waste, they may land with a small amount of natural fertilizer around them. Mammals move seeds in their own careful and careless ways. A fox can eat fallen fruit and carry seeds along the edge of a field. A deer can carry hooked seeds caught in its coat. A raccoon may climb for mulberries, persimmons, or wild grapes tangled in trees, then move seeds across its nightly route. Even a dog passing under branches can become part of seed travel if burrs cling to its fur. Hooks, barbs, and rough seed coats work like tiny fasteners. They hold until movement, grooming, or rain releases them somewhere else. Squirrels and jays create one of the most important tree exchanges. An acorn is rich in stored food, especially starches and fats. To a squirrel, it is winter energy packed inside a shell. In autumn, squirrels bury acorns and other nuts in many small caches. A cache is a hidden food store. The animal returns to many of them during winter, using smell and memory to find what it buried. A few are forgotten. Those forgotten acorns may rest under leaf litter, protected from drying air and sharp cold. When spring warms the soil, a root can push down from the acorn. A shoot can rise toward the light. The squirrel was preparing for hunger, and the oak gained a chance to grow beyond the deepest shade of its parent. Jays can move acorns even farther. Some birds carry nuts in their bills or throat pouches and hide them in the ground. Across many forests, this habit helps oak spread into open places after storms, fires, or changes in land use. Ants can move seeds too. Certain seeds have small fatty attachments that ants eat. The ants carry the seed to their nest, remove the food-rich part, and leave the seed in soil that may be safe for sprouting. This is common in many woodland plants, and it shows how even small animals can shape where new growth begins. By the time a seed leaves the branch, the tree's influence has stretched beyond its own crown. Wind may take it over a fence. Water may carry it along a ditch or stream. An animal may bury it near a stone wall, under shrubs, or at the edge of an opening. Yet beneath the parent tree, the old canopy is already shaping the ground. Its shade changes the light. Its roots share the soil. Its fallen leaves cover the surface. The young seed's journey outward begins because the space below the tree is already full of quiet limits. The young seed's journey outward begins because the space below the tree is already full of quiet limits. Beneath the crown, light arrives changed. A beam of sun that would strike open ground directly is broken by leaves, twigs, and branches before it reaches the soil. Some light is absorbed by the leaves for photosynthesis. Some is reflected away. Some passes through as a softer green glow. On a bright summer afternoon, the open ground beside a tree may feel hot and sharp, while the soil under the canopy feels dimmer and calmer. This difference can be measured. Shaded ground often stays several degrees cooler than nearby ground in full sun, especially during the warmest part of the day. The tree is changing the temperature simply by standing there with leaves spread above the earth. Shade also changes water. When sunlight hits bare soil, water evaporates more quickly. Evaporation means liquid water turns into vapor and rises into the air. Under a tree, less direct sun reaches the ground, so moisture can remain longer in the upper soil and leaf litter. After rain, the shaded ground beneath a maple, oak, beech, or hemlock may stay damp, while a nearby open patch dries faster. This dampness matters to small roots, fungi, worms, slugs, springtails, and many insects that need moisture to survive. A dry place and a damp place can sit only a few steps apart. The tree creates that difference without moving. The pattern of shade also changes through the day. In the morning, the shadow may stretch long across one side of the trunk. By noon, it tightens beneath the crown. Later, it leans in the opposite direction. Even under a thick canopy, small spots of sunlight may pass through moving leaves. These brief, bright patches are called sunflecks. A sunfleck may last only seconds or minutes, yet some forest plants use those small windows of light to make extra sugar. The ground beneath a tree is therefore never completely uniform. It has darker pockets, brighter patches, damp edges, dry ridges, and thin places where roots rise close to the surface. Plants respond to this filtered world. Grass that grows easily in open sun may thin out beneath a dense tree. Many lawn grasses need several hours of direct light each day. Under heavy shade, they become weak, pale, and sparse. Other plants are built for dimmer conditions. Ferns can spread beneath trees where sunlight is gentle. Wild ginger grows low to the ground in eastern North American forests, with broad, heart-shaped leaves that catch soft light. Some woodland plants send up broad, umbrella-like leaves in early spring, using the brighter forest floor before the tree canopy thickens overhead. Seedlings of sugar maple and American beech can survive for years in shade, growing slowly while waiting for a gap in the canopy above. A fallen branch, a storm opening, or the death of an older tree may let in more light. Then a shaded seedling can grow faster. The tree above is filtering the future. Its branches decide how much light reaches the ground. Its roots take water and minerals from the same soil that young plants need. Its fallen leaves change the surface. Some seeds can tolerate these conditions. Others struggle and disappear. This is one reason the area beneath an old tree may have a very different plant community from the open area beyond its shade. The canopy works like a living sieve, letting certain forms of life pass through while holding others back. Animals also use this shaded space. A toad may rest in damp leaf litter at the base of the trunk. Beetles may hide beneath fallen leaves where the soil stays cool. A robin may search the softer ground for worms after rain. On very hot days, mammals may lie in the shade because their bodies lose heat more easily there than in open sun. The tree's influence reaches the ground as a change in light, temperature, and moisture. Everything beneath it has to live inside that altered space. As the season moves on, the canopy begins sending more than shade downward. Leaves age. Some are chewed by insects. Some are browned by drought or touched by frost. In autumn, many broadleaf trees pull useful materials back from their leaves before releasing them. The green fades. Yellow, orange, brown, and red gather in the crown. Then the tree begins laying down the softest and most important layer of its ground world. One leaf falls. Then another follows, settling over the shaded soil where the next hidden ecosystem begins. At first, fallen leaves can look like the quiet remains of the tree's growing season. They gather around the trunk, collect along exposed roots, and drift into low places where wind and rain push them together. In autumn, a mature deciduous tree can drop tens of thousands of leaves over only a few weeks. An oak leaf may land stiff and brown, with raised veins still visible across its surface. A maple leaf may curl at the edges as it dries. A beech leaf may turn pale tan and papery, sometimes holding its shape long into winter. Together, these fallen pieces form leaf litter. Leaf litter is the loose layer of dead leaves, twigs, seed husks, bud scales, and tiny broken plant parts resting on top of the soil. Under a young tree, it may be thin and scattered. Under an old tree in a quiet forest, it can become a soft layer several centimeters deep. This layer changes the ground immediately. It covers the soil from direct sun. It slows the drying effect of wind. It softens the impact of heavy rain. A bare patch of soil can be struck hard by raindrops, which can break apart tiny soil clumps and wash fine particles away. Leaves cushion that impact. Water lands first on the curled surfaces, spreads along veins, drips through gaps, and seeps downward more gently. The soil below has more time to absorb moisture. For small life, this soft cover is shelter. A beetle can slip under a curled leaf and vanish into shadow. A centipede may move through the damp spaces, hunting even smaller creatures. Earthworms pull bits of dead leaf into their burrows. Millipedes chew rotting plant matter slowly, leaving smaller fragments behind. Springtails move through the wet spaces between leaf pieces. A springtail is often only 1 or 2 millimeters long. Many can jump by releasing a tiny forked structure tucked beneath the body. To human eyes, they may look like pale specks. In the leaf litter, they are common workers, feeding on fungi, bacteria, and decaying material. Mites live there too. Many are smaller than a pinhead. Some graze on fungi. Some feed on dead matter. Others hunt tiny animals in the spaces between leaves and soil grains. Fungi and bacteria are also active inside this layer. Fungi send thin threads into dead leaves, wood chips, and fallen twigs. Those threads are called hyphae. They release chemicals that help break tough plant material into simpler pieces. Bacteria work at an even smaller scale, using parts of the leaf that have already softened. The process is slow and layered. A fallen leaf does not become soil all at once. Rain wets it. Cold cracks it. Warm days speed the work of microbes. Small animals chew openings through it. Fungal threads loosen the surface. Over time, the leaf grows darker, thinner, and more fragile. The soft tissue disappears before the tougher veins. A once clear leaf shape becomes a lace of brown lines, then fragments, then part of the dark layer below. Different leaves decay at different speeds. Maple and ash leaves often break down faster because they are softer. Oak leaves can last longer because they contain tannins, bitter compounds that slow some feeding and decay. Pine needles may build a slower, springy mat beneath conifers because they are narrow, waxy, and tougher to break apart. The forest floor becomes a soft blanket that is also slowly becoming food. It holds dampness after rain. It protects tiny animals from heat and cold. It gives fungi and bacteria a steady supply of dead plant material. A toad may rest beneath it during a dry afternoon. A robin may flip leaves aside after rain, searching for worms and insects. A seed may land there and wait, covered lightly by the tree's own fallen pieces. The leaf that once caught sunlight above the ground now lies in shade, beginning a quieter job. It feeds the workers that feed the soil. As it breaks apart, the tree's old material starts moving back into the world below the trunk. The fallen leaves may look like an ending from above, yet beneath them, the tree's recycling system has already begun. The work is slow, quiet, and mostly hidden. A leaf that once hung in sunlight begins to soften in the damp shade. A twig dropped from a branch lies among moss, soil grains, and old seed husks. A small piece of bark curls at the edge, darkening after rain. These fallen parts still contain useful material. They hold carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and other minerals the tree once pulled from the soil. Decomposition is the process that releases those materials again. Fungi are among the most important workers in this return. They grow as fine threads called hyphae. A single thread is thin, but many threads together can spread through a leaf, a twig, or a fallen branch. The larger network is called mycelium. It may look like white fuzz, pale cords, or hidden threads woven through damp wood. Fungi release enzymes, which are chemicals that break large materials into smaller ones. Wood and leaves contain tough substances, including cellulose and lignin. Cellulose helps build plant cell walls. Lignin adds strength to wood and makes it harder to break down. Many animals cannot digest lignin well, but certain fungi can slowly loosen it. This is one reason a fallen branch can become soft, pale, and crumbly over time. Bacteria work beside the fungi at an even smaller scale. They live on moist leaf surfaces, inside softened tissue, and around soil particles. Some bacteria use simple sugars and proteins released as leaves break apart. Others help change nitrogen into forms plants can use. Nitrogen is needed to build proteins, which living cells require for growth and repair. Phosphorus helps cells store and move energy. Potassium helps regulate water movement inside plant tissues. As decomposers work, these nutrients gradually return to the soil. The tree's old leaves begin feeding the ground that once fed the tree. Insects and worms make the process easier by breaking large pieces into smaller pieces. An earthworm may pull a leaf fragment into its burrow and eat it with soil. Inside the worm's body, the material is ground and mixed. The waste it leaves behind is called a casting. Worm castings are small, dark pellets, rich in partly digested organic matter. They help improve soil structure, which means they help soil hold air and water in useful spaces. Millipedes chew dead leaves into tiny pieces. Woodlice, also called pillbugs or sowbugs, scrape at damp plant matter with small mouthparts. Beetle larvae may tunnel through dead wood, opening passages that let moisture, fungi, and bacteria reach deeper inside. A fallen twig becomes easier to break down after insects have bored through it. A leaf becomes easier for microbes to use after worms and millipedes have shredded it. The whole system works through contact, moisture, and time. Dry leaves decay slowly because most fungi and bacteria need water to stay active. Warm temperatures often speed decomposition because chemical reactions and microbial growth happen faster. Cold winters slow the process, leaving leaves and twigs waiting beneath snow or frost. In a wet tropical forest, fallen material may disappear quickly. In a cool northern forest, dead wood can last for decades. The same kind of leaf can change at different speeds depending on shade, moisture, temperature, and the animals living nearby. Decay also changes the feel of the ground. Fresh leaves make a crisp layer. Older leaves form a darker, softer layer beneath. Below that, the material becomes humus, a dark, stable part of soil made from broken down organic matter. Humus helps soil hold moisture and gives it a crumbly texture. It can cling lightly to roots and soil grains, forming the rich, earthy layer found under many forests. This is where the tree's second life becomes easiest to picture. The leaf is no longer shaped like a leaf. The twig no longer feels like clean wood. The fallen pieces have passed into bodies, threads, castings, softened fragments, and dark soil. Energy has moved through insects and microbes. Minerals have begun returning to the ground. Nothing has vanished. The tree has been taken apart gently, piece by piece, into forms that other life can use. Once decay becomes nourishment, the story sinks deeper. Below the litter and humus, the roots are waiting in darkness, quietly taking back what the fallen leaves helped return. The visible tree is only the part rising into air. A trunk may feel like the center of the whole organism because it is solid, tall, and easy to see. Yet beneath the ground, the tree has another working body. Roots spread through soil, around stones, under leaf litter, beside worm tunnels, and through spaces too small for a finger to enter. They hold the tree in place. They absorb water. They take in dissolved minerals. They store energy made by the leaves. They meet fungi, bacteria, insects, and tiny soil animals in the dark. A root system begins with anchoring roots. These are thicker, woody roots that help keep the trunk steady against wind, rain, and the pull of gravity. When a storm pushes against a tree crown, the force travels down through the trunk and into the roots. Large roots spread outward like hidden braces. In many trees, the widest roots grow sideways through the upper soil, rather than straight down. The old picture of a tree having one deep mirror image underground is often misleading. Many tree roots live in the top few feet of soil, where oxygen, moisture, and decaying organic matter are easier to find. The finest absorbing roots are much smaller. They can be thread-like, pale, and delicate. Some are thinner than a sewing thread. These fine roots do much of the work of taking in water and minerals. Near their tips, some roots grow tiny root hairs. A root hair is a thin extension of a root cell. It increases the surface area touching the soil, which helps the tree absorb more water and dissolve nutrients. The soil around these roots is full of small spaces. Water clings to soil grains. Air fills tiny pockets. Minerals from rock, dead leaves, and decomposed material dissolve into thin films of moisture. The fine roots grow through these spaces, taking in what the tree needs for new leaves, stronger wood, flowers, seeds, and repair. Roots also store energy. During spring and summer, leaves make sugars through photosynthesis. Some sugar is used right away. Some is changed into starch and stored in roots, branches, trunk tissue, or seeds. Starch is a storage form of energy. In winter, when many broadleaf trees have no leaves, stored energy helps keep living cells alive. In spring, that stored energy can help open buds and grow new leaves before the canopy is fully working again. Roots make this seasonal rhythm possible. They are quiet through much of the year, but they are never meaningless. Root growth also changes the soil. A root tip presses gently forward as it grows. It can move between grains, follow cracks, and sometimes widen small openings. As roots grow and later die, they leave channels that air and water can use. Earthworms and other soil animals may move through those same spaces. Pieces of old root become food for fungi and bacteria. Living roots also release small amounts of sugars and other compounds into the soil around them. This narrow zone near the roots is called the rhizosphere. It is one of the busiest places in the underground ecosystem. Bacteria gather there because the roots provide food. Some microbes help change nutrients into forms plants can absorb. Others compete, feed, or protect themselves in the same crowded area. A tree root is therefore surrounded by life, even while it rests in darkness. The roots also respond to conditions above them. If soil becomes too dry, root tips may slow their growth. If a patch of soil has more nutrients or moisture, fine roots may branch more heavily there. If the ground is compacted by heavy foot traffic or vehicles, roots may struggle because compacted soil has fewer air spaces. Roots need oxygen as well as water. A flooded soil can become difficult for many tree roots because water fills the spaces where air would normally remain. The hidden half of the tree is sensitive to every change in the ground. Above, the trunk stands still. Below, roots explore, absorb, store, and connect. The tree's fallen leaves helped build the soil. The roots now reach into that same soil and draw useful material back into the living tree. As the roots spread farther through the dark, they begin to meet partners even finer than themselves. Thin fungal threads wrap around them, enter nearby soil spaces, and turn the root system into something wider than the tree could build alone. Some of the finest connections around a tree are too small to see without magnification. In the dark soil near the roots, pale fungal threads spread outward through spaces between sand, silt, clay, and decaying leaves. These threads are called hyphae. A single hypha can be thinner than a human hair. Together, many hyphae form a network called mycelium. In forest soil, this mycelium can wrap around roots, grow between soil grains, and reach into pockets where the tree's own roots cannot easily go. This is where many trees form one of their most important partnerships. The partnership is called mycorrhiza. The word means fungus root. It describes the close connection between a plant root and a fungus. In many forests, tree roots are surrounded by these fungal partners. Oaks, pines, birches, beeches, spruces, maples, and many other trees can form mycorrhizal relationships. The details vary by species, but the exchange follows a simple pattern. The fungus helps the tree gather water and nutrients. The tree gives the fungus sugars made in its leaves. Those sugars began as sunlight. A leaf absorbed light, took in carbon dioxide from the air, received water from the roots, and built sugar through photosynthesis. Some of that sugar traveled down through the tree's inner living tissues. A portion reached the roots. From there, the tree could share it with fungi in the soil. The fungus cannot make its own sugar from sunlight because fungi do not photosynthesize. They need carbon-rich food from other sources. The tree provides that food. In return, the fungal threads extend the reach of the root system. Fine roots are already small, but fungal hyphae are much finer. They can slip into narrow spaces around soil particles, where roots are too thick to enter. They can absorb water from thin films clinging to mineral grains. They can help gather nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen. Phosphorus is especially important because it helps cells store and move energy. In many soils, phosphorus is present, but locked onto minerals or organic matter. Fungi can release chemicals that help free some of it. The tree then gains access to nutrients that might otherwise remain out of reach. Some mycorrhizal fungi form a sheath around the outside of roots. This type is common with trees such as oaks, pines, birches, and beeches. The fungal threads wrap around the root tip like a soft covering and spread into the nearby soil. Other fungi enter root cells more directly. This type is common in many plants and also occurs with some trees, including maples and many tropical species. The fungus grows inside the root tissue in a controlled way, creating tiny branching structures where exchange can happen. In both cases, the relationship depends on balance. The fungus takes sugar. The tree receives help with water and minerals. The soil around them becomes a shared working space. Mushrooms are often only the visible fruiting bodies of fungi. A mushroom above ground may release spores, which are tiny reproductive cells. The larger fungal body is often hidden below, spread through soil, roots, and decaying wood. When mushrooms appear near a tree after rain, they may be connected to a much wider underground network than their small caps suggest. A ring of mushrooms beneath an oak or pine can hint at fungal threads spreading through the soil around the roots. This partnership can also change how a tree handles stress. During dry periods, fungal threads may help gather water from small soil spaces. In poor soil, they may help collect nutrients. In return, the tree continues feeding them with sugars when it has enough energy to share. The relationship is living and flexible, shaped by season, moisture, soil chemistry, and the health of the tree. A quiet root tip in the dark is therefore surrounded by more than soil. It is touched by fungal threads, coated with microbes, brushed by tiny animals, and fed by the slow breakdown of leaves above. The underground world grows denser the closer it is examined. Roots and fungi are only the first visible pattern in a much larger hidden community, where countless small lives move nutrients through the soil beneath the tree. Beneath the trunk, the soil is crowded in ways the eye can barely measure. A person may scoop up a handful of dark forest soil and see only crumbs, tiny roots, bits of leaf, sand grains, and small pieces of wood. Under magnification, that handful becomes full of life. Healthy soil can contain enormous numbers of bacteria, strands of fungi, spores, tiny animals, root hairs, and fragments of once living material. A single teaspoon of rich soil may hold millions or even billions of bacterial cells, depending on the soil type, moisture, and organic matter. Most are far too small to see, yet their work shapes the ground around the tree every day. Soil is built from several ingredients mixed together over time. There are mineral grains made from weathered rock. Sand grains feel gritty. Silt feels smoother, almost like flour. Clay particles are smaller still, and they can hold water and nutrients tightly. Mixed among those mineral pieces are dead leaves, old roots, fungal threads, insect fragments, worm castings, and dark humus from earlier decay. Air and water fill the small spaces between all of it. Those spaces matter because roots and soil organisms need oxygen as well as moisture. A packed, hard soil has fewer open spaces. A loose forest soil has more room for water to soak in, air to move, and roots to grow. Worms help make those spaces. As earthworms move, they swallow soil and decaying plant matter. Their tunnels let air and water travel deeper into the ground. Their castings add small, rich pellets back into the soil. In forests where earthworms are native, they can help mix organic matter downward. In some northern forests of North America, certain earthworms arrived after European settlement and changed the leaf litter layer more quickly than the local ecosystem was used to. That detail shows how powerful soil animals can be, even when they seem small and quiet. Nematodes also live around tree roots. A nematode is a tiny roundworm, often much thinner than a thread. Some feed on bacteria, some feed on fungi, some attack plant roots. Others hunt smaller soil animals as they feed and release waste. nutrients move from one living body into forms that plants and microbes can use again. Mites and springtails work through the same hidden spaces. Many mites are shaped like tiny moving dots. Springtails feed on fungi and decaying material, helping control fungal growth and spread fragments through the litter. Bacteria and fungi do chemical work that animals cannot do alone. They break down complex materials, release nutrients, and help form the dark organic part of soil. Some bacteria, near roots, can change nitrogen into useful forms. Some fungi loosen nutrients from minerals or dead wood. Roots then absorb water, carrying dissolved nutrients through their fine tips. The tree stands above this system, but its food making depends on the world below. Soil around a tree can be compared to a living digestive system. Fallen leaves enter it from above. Small animals chew and mix them. Fungi and bacteria break them into simpler substances. Water dissolves some of those substances. Roots absorb what the tree can use. The tree grows new leaves, flowers, fruit, bark and wood. And some of that material eventually returns to the ground. This cycle can continue for decades or centuries around the same trunk. A large old tree may influence the soil far beyond its base. Its roots spread outward under the canopy. Its leaves fall year after year in roughly the same area. Its shade keeps parts of the ground cooler and moister. Its dead twigs, seeds, pollen, and bark flakes add new material to the surface. The soil becomes a record of the tree's presence. It holds yesterday's leaves, last year's roots, old insect shells, fungal threads from past rains, and minerals slowly released from rock. Every layer is active in its own slow way. Water waits in the spaces between grains. Some clings to clay. Some soaks into humus. Some drains deeper after heavy rain. The soil feeds the tree with nutrients, and it also becomes the tree's hidden reservoir. From this dark, living mixture, water begins its upward journey, entering the finest roots and rising toward the leaves waiting in the canopy above. On a warm afternoon, the leaves above the ground are quietly pulling on the roots below. The pull begins with sunlight and air. A leaf opens tiny pores on its surface, and water vapor escapes into the surrounding atmosphere. Those pores are called stomata. Most are found on the underside of leaves, where they are partly protected from direct sun and drying wind. When stomata open, carbon dioxide can enter the leaf for photosynthesis. At the same time, water vapor leaves. This loss of water is called transpiration. Transpiration may sound small, yet it is one of the forces that helps lift water through the entire tree. Water enters through the finest roots, especially near the root tips. It moves from damp soil into root cells, then into a water-carrying tissue called xylem. Xylem is made of long, hollow cells stacked together. In broadleaf trees, some xylem tubes are called vessels. In conifers, such as pines and spruces, the xylem is mostly made of narrower cells called tracheids. Both systems help move water upward through the trunk and branches. A tree does not pump water with a heart. The movement depends on physics. Water molecules cling to one another. This is called cohesion. They also cling to the walls of the xylem. This is called adhesion. As water evaporates from the leaves, it pulls on the chain of water molecules behind it. That pull travels downward through the xylem, drawing more water up from the roots. The whole system can lift water far above the ground. In a tall maple, the path may rise through several stories of wood. In a coastal redwood, it can climb more than 300 feet. At that height, every column of water inside the tree is under tension, stretched upward by the drying power of the air around the leaves. The amount of water moving through a tree can be surprising. A large tree may move dozens of gallons of water on a warm, growing day. In some conditions, a very large tree can move hundreds of gallons. The exact amount depends on species, leaf area, soil moisture, temperature, wind, and sunlight. A broad-crowned oak in summer, with many leaves exposed to moving air, may transpire far more water than the same tree during a cool, cloudy day. A desert tree with small leaves may conserve water carefully. A willow growing near a stream can move water more freely because its roots have steady access to moisture. Stomata help control this balance. When the air is dry or the soil lacks water, many trees close their stomata partly or fully. That slows water loss. It also limits carbon dioxide entering the leaves, which can reduce photosynthesis. The tree is always balancing growth with safety. Open pores allow sugar making. Closed pores protect water. Every leaf is part of that careful adjustment. This upward movement also carries dissolved minerals. Water entering the roots may contain calcium, magnesium, potassium, nitrate, phosphate, and other nutrients released from soil, dead leaves, and weathered rock. As water rises through the xylem, these materials move into the living tissues that need them. A new leaf, a growing twig, a flower bud, or a healing wound all depend on supplies arriving from below. The tree's water system ties the deep soil to the high canopy. It links rain that soaked into the ground days earlier, with vapor leaving a leaf in the afternoon sun. Some of that vapor enters the air around the crown. In a grove or forest, millions of leaves can release moisture together. This can raise humidity beneath and within the canopy. It can also cool the air slightly because evaporation carries heat away. The effect is gentle, yet easy to feel when stepping from open pavement into the shade of trees on a hot day. The tree has taken water from darkness, lifted it through wood, and released part of it into light. Soil, root, trunk, branch, leaf, and air are joined by the same moving stream. Around the tree, that stream begins to shape the small climate of the space itself, softening heat and holding moisture close to the living world beneath the canopy. A few steps can change the feel of a place. Open ground may hold bright heat. The space beneath a tree often feels softer, dimmer, and cooler. This small difference is part of the tree's climate pocket. A climate pocket is a local set of conditions shaped by shade, moisture, wind, and temperature. It may be only the size of a canopy, yet for insects, seedlings, worms, birds, and small mammals, that small space can matter. Shade is the easiest part to notice. Leaves block direct sunlight before it reaches the ground. On a summer afternoon, pavement or bare soil in full sun can heat far above the surrounding air. Under a broad maple or oak, the same kind of surface may stay much cooler because because less solar energy reaches it. Grass under a tree may be damp in the morning after open grass has already dried. A beetle under leaf litter may avoid the harshest heat of the day. A young fern may survive in filtered light, where stronger sun would dry its thin fronds. The tree also cools the air through transpiration. Water rises from the roots, moves through the xylem, and leaves through stomata in the leaves. When water becomes vapor, it takes heat with it. This is the same basic reason sweat cools skin, though a tree releases water from thousands of tiny leaf openings rather than from pores in skin. During warm growing weather, a large tree can move many gallons of water in a day. Some of that water becomes vapor inside the canopy. The air beneath the branches can become slightly more humid, which means it holds more water vapor. That extra moisture can slow drying in the leaf litter and soil below. Wind changes too. A tree crown breaks moving air into smaller currents. A gust that crosses an open field may become slower and more uneven inside the branches. Leaves flutter. Twigs bend. The trunk and branches absorb part of the force. This shelter can help small animals rest without being exposed to constant air movement. It can also reduce how quickly moisture leaves the ground. Wind speeds evaporation, so calmer air under a canopy can help soil and leaf litter stay damp longer after rain. Rainfall is softened in a similar way. A raindrop falling from a cloud can hit bare soil with enough force to break apart tiny soil clumps. When rain falls through a canopy, leaves catch part of it first. Some water runs along twigs and branches. Some travels down the trunk as stem flow. Some drips from leaf tips after a delay. By the time much of the water reaches the ground, its force has changed. This helps protect the soil surface from erosion. Erosion means soil being moved away by water, wind, or gravity. Under trees, roots also help hold soil in place. Fine roots weave through the upper ground, while larger roots brace the soil around the trunk. Together with leaf litter, they make the surface less likely to wash away during heavy rain. The climate pocket can be seen after a storm. Near the trunk, bark may be dark with water that flowed downward. At the drip line, where the canopy edge sheds water, the ground may be wetter. Under thick branches, some patches may stay surprisingly dry. The tree has divided the storm into patterns. It has guided water, slowed wind, softened impact, and kept certain places shaded. These small changes shape life beneath it. A moss patch may grow where the bark stays damp. A seedling may survive where light is gentle. A salamander in a moist forest may hide under a log or leaves where the air stays cool. A robin may hunt worms in softened soil after rain. The tree does not need to move to shape all of this. Its body creates conditions. Its leaves filter light. Its roots hold soil. Its water movement cools the air. Its branches change the path of wind and rain. One tree can do this for a season. An old tree can do it for decades, sometimes centuries. Year after year, its shade falls over the same ground. Its leaves build the same soil layer. Its roots widen through the same dark spaces. As time passes, the climate pocket becomes part of the tree's history, and older trees begin to hold forms of shelter that younger trees have not yet had time to make. Age gives a tree more places for life to enter. A young tree may have smooth bark, thin branches, and a trunk with few openings. It can already feed insects, shade the ground, and hold leaves in the sun. After many decades, the same kind of tree may become far more complex. Wind may have broken an upper limb. A woodpecker may have opened a chamber in softened wood. Rain may have darkened an old wound near the trunk. Fungi may have hollowed part of a branch from the inside. The tree remains alive while parts of it begin turning into habitat. This is common in many older trees because wood does different jobs in different places. The outer living layers move water and sugars. The inner hardwood gives strength, though much of it is made from cells that are already dead. When fungi enter through a crack, broken branch, or old scar, they often begin softening this inner wood. Over years, a small wound can become a rot pocket. Over longer spans, that pocket can widen into a hollow large enough for a bird, bat, squirrel, or raccoon. Old oaks are famous for this kind of richness. Some oaks can live for several hundred years. Ancient oaks in Europe may stand for 500 years or more. With wide trunks, heavy limbs, dead branches, deep bark, and hollow centers. Their age makes them valuable because they contain many conditions at once. Living leaves still gather sunlight. Dead limbs support fungi and insects. Cavities offer nesting space. Loose bark creates shelter. The tree becomes like an old building with rooms added by storms, weather, animals, and time. Cavity nesting birds depend on these features. Woodpeckers often make the first openings, especially in dead or weakened wood. After a woodpecker leaves, the chamber may be used by chickadees, bluebirds, tree swallows, small owls, or other birds that cannot carve deep holes for themselves. A single cavity can serve different species across many years. The entrance may be small, round, and dark. Inside, the chamber can stay warmer than open air and safer than an exposed branch. Bats also use old trees. Some species roost beneath loose bark that peels away from the trunk. Others gather inside cavities where daylight is dim and the temperature stays steadier. During summer, female bats may form maternity roosts, where they give birth and raise pups. A strip of lifted bark on a standing dead limb can become a quiet daytime shelter, hidden from bright light and many predators. Insects use old wood in even greater numbers. Some beetles need decaying wood for their larvae. These insects are called saproxylic insects, meaning they depend on dead or decaying wood for part of their life cycle. Longhorn beetles, click beetles, darkling beetles, and many others may tunnel through softened branches or fallen pieces near the base. Their tunnels open the wood to more moisture, fungi, and bacteria. The wood becomes easier for the next wave of life to use. Fungi appear in shelves, brackets, soft crusts, or hidden threads. A bracket fungus may grow from the side of a trunk, like a small wooden shelf. Mosses and lichens find more places to cling, because old bark is often rougher and more varied. A deep fissure may stay damp after rain. A dry plate of bark may warm in the sun. A shaded hollow may collect dust, spores, and tiny fragments of leaves. Even the roots of old trees create habitat. Large roots can rise above the soil like low walls. The spaces between them collect leaves and moisture. Small mammals may pass along those protected edges. Toads, salamanders, beetles, and spiders may shelter near the root flare, where the trunk widens into the ground. An old tree carries memory in its shape. A broken branch shows where weather entered. A hollow shows where fungi worked slowly. A dead limb shows where insects, birds, and fungi found a foothold. A young tree may resemble a simple new house, with clean walls and few rooms. An old tree feels closer to an ancient apartment building, full of cracks, hidden chambers, softened wood, shaded corners, and quiet residence. The longer it stands, the more forms of life it can hold. Its eventual fall begins to feel like part of this same slow change, because a tree that has spent centuries making shelter above the ground can continue making shelter after it rests on the forest floor. When an old trunk finally comes down, the forest floor receives a new kind of shelter. The fall may happen during a storm, after years of fungi softening the inner wood, or after roots loosen in soaked soil. A living tower becomes a long horizontal body. Branches settle into leaf litter. Bark presses against moss. The exposed wood begins touching damp ground. Insects, spores, and roots from nearby plants. At first, the fallen tree may still look solid. A fresh log can be heavy, tight-grained, and difficult to break. Its bark may remain attached. Its wood may still smell sharp with resin, tannins, or sap. Over time, rain enters cracks. Fungi send threads through the exposed tissues. Beetles find soft places under the bark. Ants may explore old tunnels. The log begins a slow change that can last for many years. In cool forests, large logs may remain on the ground for decades. In wet coastal forests of the Pacific Northwest, enormous fallen trunks can keep their shape for a very long time, even while life grows through them. A fallen log holds water like a sponge. Wood is made from cells that once carried water through the tree. After death, those tissues can absorb rain and hold moisture in shaded places. The top of the log may dry in the sun. The underside may stay cool and damp against the soil. This creates small differences across the same piece of wood. A salamander may hide beneath the moist lower edge. A vole or mouse may use the space under roots or broken branches. A toad may rest beside the log during a dry afternoon, where the air stays cooler. Insects enter the wood in stages. Bark beetles and other small beetles may use the space just under the bark. Longhorn beetle larvae and other wood-boring insects may chew through softened wood. Termites, where they live, help break down dead wood by feeding on cellulose. Carpenter ants often carve galleries into damp or decaying wood, using it as a nesting place. Their digging opens more air spaces and exposes more surface for fungi and bacteria. The log slowly becomes easier for smaller life to enter. Fungi are among the main builders of this change. Some form bracket-shaped shelves along the side of the log. Others remain hidden as pale threads inside the wood. White rot fungi can break down lignin, the tough material that helps make wood rigid. Brown rot fungi break down cellulose and leave wood crumbly, often with a blocky texture. As these fungi work, the log softens. Pieces break away. Dark material gathers underneath. Nutrients begin moving back into the soil. A fallen tree can also become a seedbed. This is often called a nurse log. A nurse log is a decaying log that helps young plants begin life. Its surface may hold moss, moisture, and loose organic material. Seeds landing there can avoid some ground-level competition. They may also be lifted slightly above wet soil, dense leaf litter, or hungry seed-eating animals. In Pacific Northwest forests, young western hemlock and Sitka spruce seedlings often sprout on rotting logs. Their roots grow down over the sides, reaching for the soil below. Years later, when the nurse log has mostly decayed away, the young tree may stand on raised roots that show where the old wood once held it. The dead tree has become part of the next tree's shape. This is the quiet beauty of fallen wood. It continues to hold life after the leaves are gone. It gives shade to the soil beneath it. It stores moisture through dry spells. It feeds fungi, beetles, ants, worms, bacteria, and many small animals. It releases minerals slowly instead of all at once. A tree that stood for a century may spend many more years becoming soil. The process has no clean border. Standing wood becomes fallen wood. Fallen wood becomes softened wood. Softened wood becomes food, shelter, humus, and seedbed. The tree's body keeps changing form while the ecosystem continues using it. From above, a fallen trunk may look quiet. Up close, it is full of openings, damp chambers, pale fungal threads, small jaws, hidden eggs, and new roots. The same tree that once held birds in its branches may now hold salamanders beneath its bark. The same wood that once lifted leaves into sunlight may now lift seedlings above the forest floor. Even after the fall, the tree remains a living center of activity, guiding the journey back to the simple image we began with. One tree, seen clearly now as far more than a tree. By now, the tree has become easier to see in its true size. Its height was only the first measurement. Its real reach has been moving through bark, air, soil, water, animals, fungi, and time. The trunk that once looked like a single column is covered in small landscapes. Bark ridges hold shaded grooves and damp cracks. Mosses cling with tiny anchoring threads. Lichens spread as partnerships between fungi and light-capturing algae or cyanobacteria. In those slow patches of green, grey, yellow, and silver, dust gathers. Spores settle. Moisture lingers after rain. A surface that looked rough from far away becomes a living wall. Across that wall, insects travel. Ants follow invisible scent trails. Beetles hide under loose bark or leave tunnels inside softened wood. Caterpillars chew leaves that were built from sunlight. Aphids tap into plant fluids, while spiders wait along silk lines and sheltered edges. Every movement is connected to the tree's body in some way. The leaves above collect light and use it to build sugar. That sugar feeds the tree, then moves into insects, birds, fungi, roots, flowers, fruit, and seeds. The canopy spreads over everything like a raised roof. It catches sunlight, slows rain, breaks wind, and cools the ground below. Within that leafy roof, birds perch, sing, hunt, nest, and raise young. A branch can hold a robin's mud-lined nest. A cavity can shelter a chickadee or a small owl. Loose bark can cover a roosting bat during daylight. Squirrels cross branches like bridges, carrying nuts and seeds through the air above the forest floor. Flowers add another layer of exchange. A bee entering an apple blossom may carry pollen to the next flower. A moth may visit pale flowers in evening light. A bat may feed from a large night-blooming tree in a warm forest. After pollination, seeds begin forming. Some grow inside fruit. Some become hard nuts. Some spin away on wings, drift on cottony fibers, or wait in the ground where an animal forgot them. The tree stays rooted while its future travels. Beneath the canopy, shade shapes the ground. Light arrives softer. Soil stays cooler. Water evaporates more slowly. Ferns, seedlings, toads, beetles, and worms live inside those small changes. Then the leaves fall. They make a blanket over the soil, and that blanket slowly becomes food. Worms pull pieces downward. Springtails and mites move through damp spaces. Fungi send hyphae into dead leaves and twigs. Bacteria work on softened material too small to see. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and other useful materials return to the soil. The roots wait below that dark layer. Fine roots absorb water and dissolve minerals. Larger roots hold the tree steady. Fungal partners wrap around or enter roots, helping the tree reach nutrients in tiny soil spaces. In return, the tree gives the fungi sugars made in the leaves. The soil around the roots becomes a living digestive system, taking in fallen pieces and turning them back into nourishment. Water ties the whole system together. Rain sinks into the ground. Roots absorb it. Xylem carries it upward through trunk and branches. Leaves release part of it through stomata as vapor. This movement cools the canopy and adds moisture to the air. One tree can make a small climate pocket only a few steps wide. Over decades, the effect deepens. Old trees gain cavities, dead limbs, rough bark, softened centers, wide roots, and shaded hollows. These features become rooms for birds, bats, insects, fungi, mosses, lichens, and small mammals. When an old tree falls, the living world around it continues using the wood. A fallen log stores moisture, feeds fungi, shelters amphibians, and may become a nurse log where seedlings sprout from decaying bark. So the tree is a meeting place for many kinds of movement. Energy passes through it as sunlight becomes sugar. Water passes through it from soil to air. Nutrients pass through it as leaves fall and decay. Shelter appears in bark, branches, hollows, roots, and dead wood. Reproduction moves through flowers, pollen, fruit, nuts, and seeds. Decay carries the old body back into the ground. An ordinary tree can function like a tiny forest within the larger forest. It is a calm living world, standing quietly in one place, while countless small lives move through its surfaces, shadows, openings, and hidden spaces. The next time a tree appears beside a road, in a park, near a river, or outside a window, it may feel different. The trunk may seem fuller. The shade may feel more alive. The leaves may look like small green doors into a much larger system. And in that quiet awareness, the tree can return to stillness again, holding its hidden forest gently through the night.